Hi, Misha here, and this is Episode 3, looking at bounty hunters from Star Wars. Episode 1, we looked at Bosk the Trandoshan. Episode 2, Dengar the Human Slob. And in Episode 3, kind of a fan favorite, or a expanded universe favorite, IG-88. Many considered to be second only to Boba Fett, although I don't think I agree with that. So we've got him here from the Black Series, and we have his ship, the imaginatively named IG-2000. This is an assault fighter customized for him, and whereas IG-88 was featured in Empire Strikes Back, this actually came out around 1995-96 with the Shadows of the Empire media event. It has been around ever since. So, like before, we'll talk about features and some history and the ship itself. Onto the spinny thingy, and he almost worked with the foot stand, but not quite. He would go in, but this figure is kind of notorious for being unstable, so what do? Comes from being very tall and lanky. So, IG-88 is a droid, specifically an assassin droid, something that was officially outlawed even before the Clone Wars and was definitely a no-no afterwards. But he was developed, his series, the IG series, in secret. Some canon sources claim that IG is short for Intergalactic, as in the banking clan, that these were originally developed for them, kind of a take on the original IG-86 Sentinel in the IG-100 Magna Guard. It's also been known as the Flut droid, and I said Flut, P-H-L-U-T, based on the original program, and these were designed in secret on the planet Holowan. And about the first time the original IG-88A was activated, he immediately killed his creators. Now, in canon, sometimes there's just one IG-88, but in Legends for a long time there were multiples, a total of 5 IG-88A, IG-88B, which is the one from Empire Strikes Back, IG-88C, and IG-88D, which performed similar but different roles to B, with A being the head, although they were all basically software copies of each other. And then there was a 5th one, IG-72, an assassin droid, but with its own programming. But with the kind of more modern canon, they've simplified this to just being IG-88, who was a bounty hunter. So after killing his own creators, he took off and was active by around 15 BBY, and he's definitely making appearances around 5 BBY, and R2-D2, CP-3, and others encounter him from time to time. And by 0 BBY, he's met Darth Vader, and of course we see him on board the Executor in 3 ABY after the Battle of Hoth, looking for the Millennium Falcon. One of the 6 bounty hunters, one of the 2 that were droids. And some people really think he's super tall, well over 7 feet, but current canon has him at just shy of 6.5 feet tall. But he is pretty heavy, at about 210 pounds, or 140 kilograms. He has kind of worn silver armor, red eyes, I'm sure a charming personality. In the original movie, he was just kind of a prop, basically. No man inside. In fact, he was built from a mix of aircraft parts, including the head here that's actually built from part of a British Lightning aircraft. So he was tall and spindly, just kind of put together from trash parts and other random things found in the UK when they were filming just to fill out the bounty hunter scene. But of course, while casual audiences just, he's a war droid, the expanded universe really kind of took a liking to him, and he was one of the cooler toys in the 80s, and then Shadows of the Empire expanded upon him, giving him his own ship. The IG-2000. This is a customized, modified by IG-88, aggressor class heavy starfighter or assault starfighter. Much like Dengar's Punishing One, it is 20 meters long, so kind of in between being a patrol craft and a true fighter. Of course, since IG-88's a droid, it had essentially an unlife-supported cockpit, with the only real life support being in the middle here, where IG-88 would take prisoners. He had 8 cells, and by cells, they were basically smaller than, a phone booth. And he had 1 medical capsule for stasis if he accidentally got a little rough with his bounty, because that was his thing. He really did enjoy capturing bounties. This ship was designed for maneuverability, especially in atmosphere, and to some extent good sublight speed, about 1200 kmh, which in the Star Wars universe is reasonably fast, TIE Fighter-esque. But it was said that IG-88 would sometimes disable the inertial dampeners so he could do crazy maneuvers. That'd be great unless he had prisoners, and hopefully he remembered they were there. Otherwise, he wouldn't deliver a bounty. He would deliver a sack of Jell-O. Now, it has 1 engine, but this is no ordinary engine. This is an ion engine lifted from a Nebulon B frigate. And because it is meant for a capital ship, this actually needed to have a total of 3 power cores to supply it, plus IG-88's needs. It also had shielding, short-range sensors. It had 2 heavy laser cannons, and it had 1 heavy long-range ion cannon, plus 2 tractor beam projectors, and it had these mandibles, and it had these ailerons that could extend out, and it had S-foils. Basically all this stuff done just to give it better maneuverability, so all this stuff could move around. Now on this titanium, it doesn't really do anything. There's no real movement to it, unfortunately. This was again made at the end of the line when they were, they were doing more obscure ships, which is good, but they seemed to be having to cut costs where they could. So it is what it is. The middle part is here, and the outer part's plastic. Still neat that they did it. Again, this is mostly made for Shadows of the Empire, originally. Yeah, IG-88's tactics, he would usually disable the enemy ship or the bounty ship with his ion cannon, then come in close with his tractor beams, lock on with the mandibles to the airlock, typically slicing into the enemy ship's systems because, well, he is a robot, slicing being the Star Wars version of hacking. And he would usually send over a couple of assault drones to soften him up, then go over himself to relieve him of the bounty, taking him on board and stunning them, disabling them, shoving them in a phone booth. And no, they would not change into Superman, probably just being very uncomfortable. With IG-88 at the controls, it had about 3 months of consumables, could carry just under 500 kilos of cargo without any prisoners, but with humans on board, that was reduced down to only a 1 week. Now, problem with that was, while the sublight speed was reasonably good, maneuverability was great, it had a Class 2 hyperdrive, so not the fastest, and then its backup was a Class 15, which is basically get out and push speed. But he's a droid, what does he care? So IG-88 would have more than one of these made. Some were actually decoys, meant to throw people off his trail. Others were just replacement ships. But it was kind of made for droids and to be a heavy assault craft. And he would fly the IG-2000 until he was destroyed. And depending on when you asked, that was either 3 or 4 ABY. So back to the droid himself. A lot of legends give him all kinds of internal weapons, darts, blades, flamethrowers, gases. But one thing that seems to be agreed upon, he was meant to have blasters mounted in his arms, again, assassin droid, but because he was a little hasty in killing his creators, they were not installed. So instead, he has to rely on external weapons. He uses a slightly modified E11 blaster, so the same as a stormtrooper. And on his back here, for longer range, again, much like a stormtrooper, he has a Ep.III blaster rifle. But unlike a stormtrooper, when he's just feeling personable, wanting to get to know someone, he's got a hatchet. Some call this a vibro axe. It's a hatchet. Yeah. He's also known to have grenades, bombs, all that stuff. But this figure is pretty loaded out. Now, he just kind of stands here. The real prop from Empire Strikes Back, that's all it did too. This does have moving legs. It even has hinges here. But it's got a lot of cords. It basically is meant to stand there. The feet do move. The elbows do move. I do like how they attach the guns, because he's got clamps. Kind of reminds me of clamps from Futurama. He can't really hold anything to speak of, so they have a peg system where you can peg in guns, and they actually stay in really well. And for the axe, it kind of pegs in the middle there. And again, you can move him at the elbows and stuff. It actually has kind of some movement up here too. He's got kind of this bandolier backpack thing. You can actually store either gun on his back, putting the other one in his hand. But the axe has its own little spot. Its head rotates. Kind of one of the questions always about IG-88 is, which way is forward really for his head anyway? So, you know, he's an armored droid. It's said that his wiring and stuff is corrosion, acid resistant or proofed. He's an assassin doing his thing. Again, like I said, it's said that he was second only to Boba Fett, but sometimes I think that's wishful thinking, because when you look, you don't find a lot of bounties that he successfully got, at least not compared to some of the others. He was persistent, robotic, but it seems like he got his ass handed to him more often than not, including multiple times by Boba Fett and potentially even Darth Vader, if you kind of go with certain legends stories. Like a lot of droids, he was probably a little inflexible in his thinking. One interesting thing, IG-88B, or just IG-88, was actually destroyed at Bespin. It's said that he put a tracker on Slave 1, followed Boba Fett there. Boba Fett realized he was being tracked, and he laid an ambush for him, first hitting him with a couple of light remote ion cannons, and then hitting him in the face with a shoulder-mounted ion cannon, because he's a droid. And then finishing him off by ripping his armor off and putting some thermal detonators or whatnot in his casing. Now, in canon, modern canon, that's it. In Legends, of course, no one ever stays dead, and he was resurrected, destroyed, resurrected, destroyed, over and over. A little bit redundant. The reason this is all in there is because in Empire Strikes Back, when Chewbacca's finding C-3PO's parts with the Ugnaughts, you see some of, mostly the body, of IG-88, meaning that he's already in bits and pieces. Theoretically, this could have been another IG droid, but since they were assassin droids made in secret, there aren't that many. And again, canon says that Boba Fett destroyed him. Both legends and canon say that they fought on Bespin. Regardless, in Legends, it said that C and D were soon destroyed by Boba Fett, and A was lost with the second Death Star. Long story. Not much is known about the IG-72, though. The less homicidal of the 5 brothers. I think it's one of those characters that people just really had an imagination for. I mean, all the bounty hunters are that way, but he seems to have just been one of those features of the galaxy. And this is a pretty neat little figure. I don't really care what other people think. It's more of a statuette, and that's fine by me. That's kind of IG-88. IG-88's lot in life. I mean, come on, he was built from aircraft scraps. He was meant to stand there kind of in the back row, adding to the menacingness. And yeah, he's got guns, but there's something fundamentally disturbing about a robot with a cleaver, and a well-worn and used cleaver at that. I think instead of making him more cold and robotic, a personality of just kind of like insane would have been good. A crazy droid. Like a happy-to-kill C-3PO. Either way, cool one to have. And related to the newer IG-11 that we've seen. And the ship is definitely a unique-looking ship. Lots of moving parts, lots of adjustments, something a robot could fly. But definitely one of the most popular bounty hunters. Again, many credit him with being second only to Boba Fett, but he just doesn't seem like one of those droids that always got it the way he wanted. It seems like he was either a day late and $1 short getting to his bounty, or when it came up against it, he would lose fights. At least that's how stories were. Then again, what better person to put your hero up against, your protagonist, than a homicidal robot, huh? So, you know, he was beaten the Shadows of the Empire series as well. But certainly neat, and I thought he'd be a good number 3 in this series. So what do you think? You notice this definitely stays in his hand really well. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.